For my 61st birthday, my stepdaughter gave me a fitness tracker. I proudly showed it off at work. Suddenly, my coworker, a military veteran, examined it closely and went pale. He whispered, "You need to report this to the police." I stayed quiet. I didn't respond. 3 days later, I uncovered a truth that left me frozen. From that moment, I built a plan, and soon everyone involved would pay the price. Thanks for being here. If you're new, please subscribe and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Quick note, this story includes fictionalized elements for storytelling purposes. Any similarities to real people or places are coincidental. But the lessons, those are worth considering. Let's begin. The conference room at Great Lakes Bank was smaller than I'd imagined for a showdown that would decide my entire future. Detective Holloway sat to my right, my lawyer Jonathan Reed to my left. Across the polished oak table, Michelle Porter, the bank's fraud investigator, adjusted her reading glasses and opened a file folder with my name on it. On the table between us, in a clear evidence bag, sat the VitaTrack Pro fitness band. It looked harmless. Sleek black band. Touchscreen face. The kind of thing you'd see on any older person's wrist, tracking steps and heart rate and keeping an eye on their health. But I knew better now. "Mr. Brennan," Michelle began, "thank you for coming in today." I stared at that band through the plastic, and all I could think was, how did I not see it coming? Let me take you back. Let me tell you how it all started. My 61st birthday fell on a Saturday in late May, one of those perfect Midwest mornings where the sky runs blue from horizon to horizon and the air smells like fresh-cut grass. Sharon had been up since dawn, marinating chicken for the grill, humming along to the oldies station. She did that when she was happy. I hadn't expected much that day. At 61, you stop expecting surprises. You settle into routines, into the comfortable weight of years together. Then the doorbell rang at 10:30. "That's Penelope." Sharon's face lit up. She practically ran for the front door. I followed slower. My relationship with Penelope had always been complicated. She was Sharon's daughter from her first marriage, 31 now, and for 8 years, ever since Sharon and I got married, she'd kept me at arm's length. Polite, cordial, distant. I was her mother's husband, not her father. So when I reached the living room and saw her standing there with a gift bag and Tyler, her boyfriend, beside her, I was caught off guard. "Happy birthday, Spencer." She smiled and it reached her eyes. "Hey, kiddo, I got you something special." She crossed the room holding out the bag. "You're 61 now. I've been worried about you working so hard at that distribution center. All those long hours. I thought this might help." Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a VitaTrack Pro fitness band. Top of the line. $250 easy. "Penelope, this is too much." "No, it's not." Her voice was firm but warm. "You've been good to Mom. You work yourself half to death. I want to make sure you're taking care of yourself too. This tracks your heart rate, your sleep, your steps. Even has GPS. I turned the box over in my hands, throat going tight. "Dad." I looked up. She was watching me, her expression soft. "I know I haven't always been easy, but I'm trying. I want us to be a real family." Sharon was openly crying. Tyler stood by the door, smiling, hands in his pockets, like he belonged there. "Thank you," I managed. "This means a lot." And I meant it. God help me, I meant every word. By 2 o'clock, the back deck smelled of charcoal and sizzling meat. I'd fired up the grill, my domain, my tradition, and Sharon had set the picnic table with her good plates. Penelope and Tyler had settled into lawn chairs with cold beers. I'd strapped the VitaTrack Pro onto my wrist right out of the box, and I kept glancing at it. Heart rate 74. Steps 3, 247. It was strangely satisfying seeing my day quantified. "So Spencer," Tyler said, tipping his beer toward me, "Penelope mentioned you're thinking about retiring soon." I flipped a burger. "Few more years, maybe." I've got 28 in at the distribution center. Thought Sharon and I might finally take that RV trip out west. That sounds amazing, Penelope said. But have you thought about health stuff, long drives, being out in the middle of nowhere? What if something happens? I'm 61, not 90. I laughed. I'm just saying, Dad. There it was again. That word, you should take it easy. Let the band track your vitals. If it picks up anything weird, you'll know. She's right, Sharon added. You push yourself too hard, Spence. Tyler took another swig. You guys have your finances locked down for retirement 401k IRAs. Pretty much. I didn't see any harm in it. We were family. Got about $1 million in retirement accounts. House is paid off, life insurance through work. We're set. Smart, Tyler said. You've done well. Penelope watched me over the rim of her glass, expression unreadable. The rest of the afternoon passed in easy conversation. Normal stuff. Family stuff. When they left around 6, Penelope hugged me at the door. A real hug. Love you, Dad, she whispered. Love you too, kiddo. As I watched them drive away, Sharon leaning into my side, the VitaTrack Pro snug on my wrist, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Belonging. I wore the band to work Monday morning, showing it off to Walter during break. By Tuesday, I'd synced it to my phone, marveling at the data, sleep cycles, resting heart rate, stress tracker. By Wednesday, I'd forgotten it was even there. I didn't know that by Wednesday everything would be different. That the device I wore so proudly, the gift I thought meant acceptance and love, was already listening. Already watching. Already sending everything I said everywhere I went to someone who had no intention of being family. But that's a story for later. For now, all I knew was that I had a daughter who finally called me Dad. And God, I wanted to believe it was real. Monday morning at the distribution center started like every other. Coffee at 5:30, safety briefing at 6, the hum of conveyor belts and forklifts forming the soundtrack of a life I'd lived for 28 years. I didn't know I was wearing evidence on my wrist. The VitaTrack Pro caught the light as I clocked in, and I felt a small surge of pride. Not just because it was nice tech, but because of who'd given it to me. Penelope, my stepdaughter who'd finally started calling me Dad. By the time I made it to the break room for my second cup of coffee, Kevin Walsh was already camped out at the corner table, scrolling through his phone. Morning, Spence. He glanced up, then did a double take. Whoa, is that a smartwatch? You joining the 21st century on us? Fitness band. I corrected, holding up my wrist. Birthday gift from Penelope. No kidding. Kevin grinned. Pretty soon you'll be telling me your screen time stats. Walter Hughes walked in, then carrying his ancient Stanley thermos. He'd worked the floor almost as long as I had, and we'd settled into the kind of easy friendship you get when you've spent decades dodging the same forklifts. What are we looking at? Walter set his thermos down, eyes on my wrist. Spence got a fancy fitness band, Kevin said. From the stepdaughter. Walter leaned closer, and something in his posture shifted. He wasn't just looking, he was examining. Can I see that? I unstrapped it, handed it over. Walter turned it slowly in his hands, running a thumb along the edges. His brow furrowed. Where'd you say this came from? Penelope. Birthday gift. I felt a defensive twinge. Why? Walter didn't answer right away. He held the band up to the light, squinted at the seam where the strap met the sensor module. Then he pressed the power button, watched the screen flicker. How long's the battery last? I charged it Sunday night. It's already down to 70%. Walter's jaw tightened. And you've been wearing it 2 days. Yeah, is that bad? He set the band down on the table, met my eyes. His voice was careful. Spencer, this thing's heavier than it should be. 20 minutes later, we were alone in the storage room behind the loading dock. Walter stood under the flickering fluorescent light, the VitaTrack Pro resting on a metal shelf between us. I don't want to freak you out, Walter said, but something's off. Off how? Wait for one thing. These bands usually run about 30 grams. This one's closer to 45, maybe 50. That's a 15-gram difference. In electronics, that's significant. I stared at the band. It looked harmless. Chidi and the seams. Walter pointed to the edge of the sensor module. See that those micro gaps along the housing, that means it's been opened. Professionally, my chest tightened. Opened why? Walter leaned back against the shelf. I did 20 years in Army Signal Corps. Part of my job was working with surveillance equipment, tracking devices, audio pickups, the kind of stuff you plant on someone when you need to know where they are and what they're saying. He paused. The signs I'm seeing here, they remind me of field modifications. The weight discrepancy, the battery drain, the gaps in the casing. You're saying someone bugged it. I'm saying it doesn't match factory specs. Could be nothing, could be defective, but... He rubbed the back of his neck. I'd feel better if I ran a few tests. Check the Bluetooth signature scan for RF signals, see if there's anything broadcasting that shouldn't be. I wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him he was wrong, that Penelope wouldn't do that. That this was just paranoia from a guy who'd spent too many years looking for threats. But Walter wasn't the paranoid type, and the look on his face wasn't suspicion, it was concern. How long would that take? Couple days. I've got an RF scanner at home, and my son-in-law works IT, he can pull signal data. I picked up the band, turned it over in my hands. It felt heavier now. Okay, I said quietly. Do it. Wednesday night, Walter texted me to meet him in the parking lot after our shift. The sun was setting behind the warehouse, casting long shadows across the asphalt. He stood leaning against his truck, a notebook open in one hand. He didn't waste time. It's modified Spencer, no question. The ground seemed to tilt. You're sure? Bluetooth signature doesn't match manufacturer specs. There's a low-level RF signal coming off it, nothing huge, but more than a standard fitness tracker should emit. And the power consumption pattern. He flipped the notebook so I could see the graph. See these spikes, that's consistent with additional components, likely a microphone, possibly enhanced GPS beyond the standard chipset. I couldn't breathe. You're telling me someone's listening? I'm telling you this device has been altered, professionally. This isn't some cheap spy gadget off Amazon. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. I pulled the band out of my pocket. I'd stopped wearing it Tuesday morning, told everyone the clasp was bothering me, and stared at it like it might confess. Who would do this? But even as I said it, I knew. I knew, and it made me want to throw up. Walter's voice was gentle. I don't know, brother. But you need to figure that out. And you need help doing it. The drive home that night felt longer than it should have. I left the VitaTrack Pro in the glove compartment instead of on my wrist, and every mile marker felt like a countdown to a conversation I didn't want to have. But before I confronted anyone, before I asked Sharon or called Penelope or did anything that might tip my hand, I needed to be sure. I needed proof that wouldn't let me hide from the truth. Thursday morning, I walked into the police station. The Lucas County precinct smelled like burnt coffee and old paperwork. I'd never set foot in here before. 61 years in this town, and I'd never needed the police for anything bigger than a stolen license plate. Now I was sitting across from Detective James Holloway, holding what I'd thought was a gift, waiting to hear how my stepdaughter was stealing my life. Holloway was mid-40s, graying at the temples, with the kind of steady calm that came from seeing too much. He listened without interrupting while I explained about my birthday, about Penelope calling me Dad, about Walter's discovery. I felt ridiculous, paranoid, but Holloway didn't laugh. Mr. Brennan, you'd be surprised how often this happens. Elder exploitation through technology is becoming more common. You did the right thing coming in. He took the VitaTrack Pro, slipped it into an evidence bag, and called for someone named Martinez from the tech lab. Then he gestured toward a bench in the hallway. This'll take about 45 minutes. I sat. The clock on the wall ticked loud enough to count my heartbeat. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. I watched officers move through their routines like this was just another Thursday. For them it was. For me, the world was splitting open. What if Walter was wrong? What if I was about to accuse Penelope based on paranoia and a 15-gram weight difference? What if I was the problem? Martinez appeared in the doorway 43 minutes later, holding a tablet and the evidence bag. Holloway waved me into a small conference room. "Mr. Brennan." Martinez began setting the tablet down. "Your friend was right. This device has been significantly modified." My stomach dropped. "How significantly?" "Hidden microphone component not standard for this model. Enhanced GPS module beyond the health tracking chipset. And the firmware's been altered to allow remote access." "Remote access," I repeated. "Someone can listen in real time," Martinez explained. "They can also pull location data, access stored recordings, even monitor battery life to know when you're charging it, which tells them when you're home." Holloway leaned forward. "This isn't some cheap spy gadget. Whoever modified this knew exactly what they were doing. This level of work requires technical expertise and specific intent." I couldn't breathe. "What exactly are they listening for?" Holloway's expression was grim. "In my experience, financial information, passwords, account numbers, health details, anything that can be used to build a case for diminished capacity or to gain access to assets. Every conversation, every phone call, every private moment for the past week." She'd heard all of it. "Tyler and I talked about the RV trip. I told him about our retirement accounts, how much we had, that the house was paid off." My voice cracked. "I handed her everything." "How you didn't know," Holloway said quietly. "That's the point. These scams rely on trust, on family." I looked down at my hands. They were shaking. "What do I do now?" Holloway pulled a notepad closer. "Here's what you don't do, confront her. Not yet. If you do, she'll deny everything, destroy evidence, and go underground. We'll never be able to prove what she's planning. So I do nothing. No. You build a case. We need to document a pattern of behavior. One instance of surveillance isn't enough for prosecution." He slid a business card across the table. "Jonathan Reed, attorney at law. Tomorrow morning, you meet with him. He'll help you lock down your assets, change beneficiaries, update your will, put fraud alerts on your accounts. You protect yourself legally before anything else." And the band, Holloway leaned back. "Here's what we're going to do. We keep this one as evidence. I'm going to give you a replacement, same model, same color. But this one's clean. No modifications, no surveillance." "Oh," I stared at him. "You want me to wear a fake? I want you to act normal. If she's monitoring remotely and the device suddenly goes offline, she'll know you found out. But if you keep wearing it, keep talking like nothing's changed, she won't suspect. The replacement will work exactly like a normal fitness band," Martinez added. "She won't know the difference unless she physically inspects it." My head was spinning. "You're asking me to pretend everything's fine while wearing a decoy. I'm asking you to document what she does next," Holloway said. "And we need to protect your assets immediately tomorrow." He pushed the card closer. "Call Reed tonight. Get an appointment for first thing in the morning." I took the card. My hands were still shaking. "And Spencer." Holloway's voice was softer. "Don't wear it in the bedroom. Even the clean one. Some conversations should stay private." I drove home that evening with the replacement band on my wrist. It looked identical. Felt identical. But it wasn't. The irony wasn't lost on me. Now I was the one pretending, the one keeping secrets. Sharon was setting the table when I walked in. She looked up, smiled. "How was your day?" I looked at her. At the woman I'd built a life with. The woman whose daughter was trying to destroy me. "Fine," I said. "Pretty standard." She paused, studying my face. "You look stressed." Everything okay at work? Just the usual, I lied. Nothing to worry about. Another lie. They were getting easier. She kissed my cheek, went back to the kitchen. I stood there in the hallway, the weight of the clean band on my wrist, and felt the ground shift. That night I lay in bed beside Sharon, both of us in the dark, and I knew everything had changed. I was wearing a device that looked exactly like the one Penelope had given me. But this one wasn't listening. Now I was the only one holding secrets. Tomorrow I'd meet with a lawyer and build walls around everything I owned. Then I'd give Penelope exactly what she wanted to hear, and I'd watch what she did with it. Friday morning I called in sick for the first time in 3 years. I wasn't sick. I was sitting in Jonathan Reed's law office on Market Street, learning how easy it is for someone to lose everything they've spent a lifetime building, and how to make damn sure it didn't happen to me. Reed's office was lined with law books and framed degrees. Family photos sat on the credenza behind his desk. 2 kids, a golden retriever, a wife with a kind smile. The kind of life I'd thought I had. I laid it all out for him. The modified fitness band. The police involvement. My suspicion about Penelope. I half expected him to tell me I was overreacting. He didn't. Financial exploitation of older adults is more common than people think, Reed said, leaning back in his chair. And the perpetrators are usually family members. The built-in trust makes it easier. Easier to steal from me. Easier to control you. He pulled a legal pad closer. Let me explain what we're up against. First, guardianship. Someone can petition the court to manage your affairs if they can prove you lack the capacity to make decisions for yourself. My chest tightened. Capacity, medical evidence, especially documented health data. If someone has access to your health information, real or fabricated, they can build a case. They show a pattern of confusion, poor judgment, unsafe behavior. Then they ask a judge to declare you incompetent. I thought about the fitness band, about every conversation it had recorded. Every false alert it could have sent about my heart rate, my sleep, my stress levels. And if they succeed, they control your finances, your medical decisions, where you live, everything. Reed's voice was steady, but his eyes were serious. That's why we're here, to make sure that never happens. He pulled out a file, started making notes. Walk me through your assets. I did. The house and land, $615,000 paid off. Retirement accounts, $1.1 million between my 401k and IRA. Life insurance through work, $850,000. The RV Sharon and I had bought last year, $95,000. Reed did the math. About $2.66 million total. Yeah, he set his pen down. That's more than enough to motivate a scam. The room felt colder. There's also power of attorney, Reed continued. Never sign a POA under pressure. Once you sign it, give someone enormous control over your finances. They can access accounts, sell property, make investments, all in your name. What if Penelope already has documents prepared? Then she'll ask you to sign them. And when you do, she'll act fast. He met my eyes. That's why we're going to lock everything down today, before she has a chance to make a move. Reed's action plan was immediate and thorough. First, we changed every online banking password, enabled 2-factor authentication on every account, set up verbal passwords for phone calls to the bank security questions only I would know the answers to. Fraud alerts on every credit line. If anyone tries to open a new account in your name, you'll get a notification immediately. Reed explained. Next, beneficiaries. I'd always listed Sharon as primary. Reed advised, adding contingent beneficiaries, my brother in Colorado, a cousin in Michigan. So if something happened to both Sharon and me, the money wouldn't default to probate where Penelope could make a claim. We'll also set up a living trust, Reed said. Keeps your estate out of probate entirely. makes it much harder for anyone to contest. By noon, we were at the bank. The manager, a woman named Patricia with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, listened as Reed explained the situation. She didn't ask for details. She'd seen this before. "We'll add a verbal password to your account," Patricia said, typing rapidly. "Any changes, beneficiaries, withdrawals over $5,000, address updates will require you to appear in person with 2 forms of ID, and will flag your account for suspicious activity." "What if someone shows up with a guardianship order?" I asked. Reed answered before she could. "Even with a court order, there's a review process. It'll buy us time to contest it." Patricia nodded. "And if we see any red flags, someone calling repeatedly asking about your accounts, trying to add themselves as authorized users, we'll contact you immediately." I signed the authorization forms. My hand was steadier than I expected. "Now," Reed said as we walked back to his car. "Even if she tries to file for guardianship, she'll hit a wall at every step." That night, I sat at the computer in our home office, methodically resetting passwords, email, phone account, streaming services, investment portfolios, everything. Sharon appeared in the doorway around 9:30. "What are you doing?" "You've been at that computer for 2 hours. I kept my voice casual. "Updating security. Remember that data breach at work last week? IT said we should change all our personal passwords just to be safe." A lie wrapped in partial truth. Sharon frowned, leaning against the doorframe. "You've seemed really stressed lately. Is everything okay?" "Just work stuff, busy season, I'm fine." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Okay. Don't stay up too late." "I won't." I watched her walk away, guilt twisting in my gut. By midnight, every account had a new password. Every institution had fraud alerts in place. Penelope could listen all she wanted. There was nothing left for her to take without triggering alarms. But I needed more than defense. I needed proof of what she was planning. And that meant becoming exactly what she wanted me to be: a confused, vulnerable old man. The performance would begin tomorrow. Saturday morning, I made my first move. I called my oldest friend, Frank Morrison, and staged a conversation I knew someone else was listening to. Every word was calculated. Every pause was intentional. For the first time in my life, I was the one setting the trap. I sat in the home office with the door closed. The replacement fitness band sat snug on my wrist, clean, unmodified, exactly like the original. But I still felt watched. Paranoia had become my default setting. Frank answered on the 3rd ring. "Spence, show, what's going on?" "Hey buddy, got a minute?" "Always. What's up?" We talked about nothing for a few minutes, whether his grandson's baseball team, the Packers' chances next season. Normal stuff. Then I steered the conversation where I needed it to go. "Hey, you remember that RV Sharon and I bought last year? The one you were going to take out west?" "Yeah, why?" "I'm thinking about selling it." I kept my voice casual, like it was just a passing thought. "Talked to a dealer. Said I could probably get 90, maybe 95,000 for it." "That's good money. You guys change your mind about the trip." I paused. Let the silence stretch just long enough. "Not exactly. It's just, I've been tired lately, Frank. Really tired. There are days I come home and can't even remember what I did at work. I forgot my lunch twice this week. Sharon had to bring it to me." Frank's tone shifted. "That doesn't sound like you." "Yeah, well, doctor said I should slow down. Brain's not as sharp as it used to be, I guess." Another pause. I could feel the weight of the band on my wrist, imagining the signal carrying my words somewhere I couldn't see. "You okay, Spence?" "I'm fine. Just getting old." I forced a laugh. "Anyway, I'll let you know about the RV. Might make more sense to cash out while it's still worth something." We talked for a few more minutes, then hung up. I sat there staring at the phone, at the band, at the empty room that suddenly felt crowded. Now I waited. Sunday afternoon. I was in the backyard, raking leaves. The kind of mindless work that kept my hands busy and my thoughts spinning. The sun was warm, the air smelled like autumn, and everything looked normal. It wasn't. Sharon came out with 2 glasses of iced tea, handed me one. "Thanks for doing this. Looks good." "No problem." I took a sip, tried to look relaxed. She hesitated, then sat down on the porch steps. "So I talked to Penelope this morning." My pulse spiked. I kept raking. "Oh yeah, how's she doing?" She's good. But she mentioned something interesting." Sharon's voice was casual, like she was making conversation. "She asked if you were planning to sell the RV. She wanted to know if we'd thought about where that money would go." I stopped raking, turned to face her. "Sell the RV, I only mentioned that to Frank yesterday." "How would Penelope know?" Sharon frowned, thinking. "I must have told her at some point." I don't remember, but I did. I remembered exactly. I'd never discussed selling the RV with Sharon. The only person who knew was Frank. On the phone, yesterday morning. I went back to raking, forcing my hands to stay steady. "Maybe you did." Sharon stayed a few more minutes talking about dinner plans and whether we needed groceries. I nodded in the right places, made the right sounds, but my mind was racing. Less than 24 hours. From my phone call with Frank to Penelope contacting Sharon. She was listening, actively, and she wasn't coming to me directly. She was going through Sharon, keeping herself at arm's length, making it look innocent. That level of caution meant one thing: she'd done this before. That night, after Sharon went upstairs to take a bath, I slipped out to the garage and called Detective Holloway. "It worked," I said, keeping my voice low. She responded. "Walk me through it." I explained the timeline. Frank on Saturday morning. Penelope contacting Sharon by Sunday morning. The question about the RV that I'd never mentioned to my wife. Holloway was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was serious. "She's monitoring actively. And the fact that she went through your wife instead of asking you directly, that's sophisticated. She's being careful, making sure you don't get suspicious. This level of operational security tells me she's done this before. So what do I do?" Keep feeding her. Small things. Health concerns, financial decisions, retirement plans. Make yourself look vulnerable, but don't overdo it. If you suddenly become incompetent overnight, she'll know something's wrong. How long? As long as it takes to document a pattern. We need more than one incident. We need a trail. I hung up, stood in the cold garage for a minute, then went back inside. Sharon was on the couch watching some cooking show. I sat down beside her, slipped the band off my wrist, set it on the coffee table. Played the part of the man who had nothing to hide. She glanced over, smiled. "You okay?" "Yeah, just tired." She leaned into me and I put my arm around her. On the TV, someone was making soufflé. Normal, peaceful. Lies upon lies upon lies. How many more before I could tell her the truth? That night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, I wondered how long I could keep this up. I didn't know that within 48 hours, Penelope would escalate. The listening phase was ending. The destruction phase was about to begin. And it would start with my reputation. Monday morning, I did something equal parts paranoid and necessary. Walter Hughes and I sat in his truck in the distribution center parking lot, building a spreadsheet that would either save my life or prove I'd lost my mind. Every date, every word, every reaction. Because when you're 61 and someone's trying to paint you as incompetent, the only defense is documentation. The sun was barely up. 6:15. The lot was empty except for a few early arrivals. Walter had brought his laptop, a thermos of coffee, and the kind of focus you learn in the military. 5 columns, he said, opening Excel. Date and time you fed her information. What you said. Date and time she responded. How she responded. And evidence screenshots, call logs, anything we can verify. I watched him type headers across the top row, his fingers surprisingly fast, for a guy who claimed he didn't understand technology. Once is coincidence, Walter said without looking up. Twice is suspicious. 3 times is proof. And when you're a gray-haired guy in his 60s, half the world's ready to assume you're confused anyway. Documentation is what keeps you from getting dismissed. He was right. I knew he was right. But sitting there building a file to prove my stepdaughter was surveilling me felt surreal. First entry, Walter said. Saturday 10 a.m. What did you tell Frank? I recited it. RV sale. Exhaustion. Forgetfulness. Doctor's concern. Walter typed. Penelope's response, Sunday morning, through Sharon, asked about the RV money. On response time approximately 24 hours. Walter's voice was clinical, detached. Now we establish a pattern. You ready for round 2? Tuesday at lunch, I found a quiet corner in the break room and called Frank again. The fitness band sat on my wrist, silent and clean, but the habit of paranoia had settled in. I imagined invisible ears tuned to every syllable. Hey buddy, got a minute? Frank answered, his voice cautious. Spence, you okay? You've been calling a lot lately. Yeah, I'm fine. I paused. Let the hesitation sound natural. Been getting a lot of headaches lately. Went to the doctor last week. He said my blood pressure's creeping up. That's not good. No. And yesterday something weird happened. I walked into the break room and just stood there for a minute. Couldn't remember what I'd come for. Just blank. Frank's concern was genuine. Is that normal at our age? I don't know. But it's happening more often. Sharon's worried I'm working too hard. She thinks maybe it's time to start thinking about slowing down. Retirement, maybe. You thinking about it? Starting to. We talked for a few more minutes. Surface stuff, easy lies wrapped around a core of manufactured vulnerability. And then I hung up. I looked at the band, at the phone, at the empty break room. Now we wait. Wednesday evening, I walked through the door to find Sharon on the phone, her expression tight with worry. She glanced up, held up a finger 1 minute, and turned away. Okay, sweetie, I'll talk to him. Love you too. She hung up, set the phone down carefully. Penelope called. My pulse kicked up, but I kept my voice neutral. Oh, yeah. She's worried about you. Sharon's eyes searched my face. She said you told Frank about the headaches and the blood pressure. She thinks you should get a full checkup now, not wait until next month. I felt the trap closing. Sharon, kind, loving Sharon, was being turned into Penelope's unwitting ally. Convinced that I was declining, that I needed help, that someone had to step in before I made bad decisions. I'm 61, Sharon, not 80. Her face fell. I'm just worried about you. I know. I softened my tone, reached for her hand. I know you are, but I'm fine. It's just stress. Work's been busy. That's what Penelope said, that you're pushing yourself too hard. I wanted to scream, wanted to tell her everything, the surveillance, the manipulation, the careful web Penelope was weaving around both of us. But I couldn't. Not yet. I'll make an appointment, I said quietly. Okay, Sharon nodded, squeezed my hand. Okay, but the damage was done. I could see it in her eyes. She believed Penelope. She believed I was slipping. That night, Sharon went to bed early without saying goodnight. I sat in the living room, staring at our wedding photo on the mantel. 8 years. We'd built a life on trust, on honesty, on showing up for each other every single day. Now it was full of manipulation, of lies I told to protect her, of distance growing between us because I couldn't explain why. I wanted to tell her. God, I wanted to tell her everything. But I knew what Holloway had said, document the pattern first. Build the case. Don't tip your hand. So I stayed silent. And I watched our marriage erode one lie at a time. Thursday morning I went to work exhausted. I pulled out my phone, opened the spreadsheet Walter and I had built, and added the new data. Entry 2, Date/time info fed. Tuesday 12:15 p.m. What was said? Headaches, blood pressure, forgetfulness, retirement talk. Date/time response, Wednesday 6 p.m. How she responded, called Sharon, urged immediate doctor visit response time. Approximately 30 hours. But then I noticed something. Penelope's response time was getting faster. 24 hours after the first test, 30 hours after the second. But if you counted from when I hung up with Frank to when she called Sharon, it was less than 12. She was getting more confident, more impatient. I should have realized that impatience was dangerous. Should have known that when people get overconfident, they take bigger risks. I just didn't expect her to go after my livelihood. I didn't expect her to target the one thing besides family that defined who I was. My work. At 4:30 Friday morning, my phone exploded with alerts. The distribution center's automated systems had gone haywire. Conveyor belts running backward. Loading dock doors slamming open and shut, like something out of a haunted house. The freezer section's temperature control shut down completely. And according to the security logs, the last person to access the system was me. Except I was 40 minutes away in bed, or at least trying to sleep. Richard Cole's voice came through the phone, sharp and furious. "Spencer, get to the center, now. We've got a situation." I threw on clothes and drove through empty streets with my heart hammering. The distribution center looked like a crime scene. Alarm lights strobing red. Workers clustered outside, voices raised. Through the loading dock entrance, I could see pallets tipped over, boxes split open, product scattered everywhere. Cole met me at the door, his face the color of raw beef. What the hell happened? That's what I want to know. He didn't let me pass. Security logs show your account accessed the system at 1:47 this morning. Someone triggered a cascade failure, reversed conveyor protocols, opened exterior doors, shut down the freezer backup systems. My stomach dropped. That wasn't me. Then who was it? I don't know, but I was home, asleep. Cole's jaw tightened. Can anyone confirm that? My wife. Your wife. He said it like it didn't count. Richard, I've worked here 28 years. Why would I sabotage my own workplace? You tell me. By 8 a.m., I was sitting in a conference room with Cole, 2 other managers, and a woman from HR. The kind of meeting where you know the verdict before anyone speaks. Cole laid out the damage. Tens of thousands in spoiled inventory, disrupted shipments, client complaints, and the security logs time-stamped damning, showing my username and password at 1:47 a.m. Either you did this intentionally, Cole said, or you accessed the system and don't remember doing it. The implication hung in the air. Intentional sabotage. Or cognitive decline so severe I'd caused chaos and forgotten. I didn't do this, I said quietly. Someone used my credentials. How? I don't know. The HR woman leaned forward. Mr. Brennan, we have no choice but to place you on immediate suspension pending investigation. The words hit like a punch. A suspension. Effective immediately. We'll need your badge and access card. 28 years. I'd helped build this place, and now they were escorting me out like a criminal. Walter caught my eye from across the warehouse floor. His face said everything I believe you. We'll fix this. But it didn't feel fixable. Carlos from IT called that afternoon. I was sitting in my truck in the driveway when my phone rang. Spencer, I went through the logs. It's your username and password, but the IP address is external. Not from your home network. External from where? A coffee shop on 5th Street? Public Wi-Fi? My mind raced. 5th Street. I'd never been there, but I knew someone who had. Carlos, whoever did this, did they know the system? Oh yeah. They targeted specific vulnerabilities. Conveyor protocols, door overrides, backup shutdowns. This was deliberate, professional. Can you trace it further? I'm working on it. But Spencer, They had access to your credentials and knew our system architecture. That's insider knowledge. I called Detective Holloway from my truck, hands shaking. She escalated. Penelope sabotaged my workplace. I'm suspended. Holloway's voice was calm. Walk me through it. I did. The system breach. The login logs. The external IP from 5th Street. When I finished, Holloway was quiet. This is step 3, he said finally. Step 3. Elder fraud escalation. Step 1, surveillance. Gather information. Step 2, test responses. Step 3, destroy credibility. Make you look incompetent, confused, dangerous. That clears the path for step 4, which is guardianship petition. Once your reputation's destroyed, it's easier to convince a judge you need someone to manage your affairs. I felt sick. Tyler, I said. Penelope's boyfriend. He works in IT. He asked me about system architecture on Father's Day. The 5th Street coffee shop, does he go there? I don't know, but it fits. Holloway's voice hardened. We're running a background check on Tyler Brooks and Spencer. This just became evidence of conspiracy. She's not acting alone. The weekend was the longest of my life. I stayed home, suspended. While Carlos and Walter worked behind the scenes trying to trace the IP and build a defense, Sharon hovered, asking questions I couldn't answer. What happened? Why are you home? Are you in trouble? It's a misunderstanding. It'll get sorted out. Saturday afternoon, Penelope called Sharon. I heard my wife's voice from the kitchen, soft and concerned. He's okay, sweetie. Just some trouble at work. A pause. I know, I'm worried too. When Sharon hung up, she looked at me with eyes full of fear. Penelope thinks you should see a doctor. She's worried you're under too much stress. Of course she was. Monday morning, for the first time in 28 years, I didn't go to work. I sat at home suspended while Carlos and Walter tried to trace that IP address. The walls were closing in. Penelope had drawn blood. My career. My reputation. The thing I'd built my identity around for nearly 3 decades. And now she wanted more. She showed up Tuesday afternoon with a bowl of homemade soup and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Penelope had always known how to play the dutiful daughter, the concerned voice, the gentle questions, the hand on your arm that felt comforting, but was really a chain. What she didn't know was that I was playing a role now too, and I was learning fast. The doorbell rang at 3:30. I'd been sitting in the living room staring at nothing suspended from work for the first time in my life. Sharon was out running errands. I was alone. Penelope stood on the porch holding a Tupperware container, her expression soft with worry. Hey, Dad, I brought you some soup, chicken and rice. Mom said you weren't eating much. I let her in. What else could I do? She set the container on the kitchen counter, moved around my space like she belonged there, pulling out a bowl, heating the soup in the microwave. Domestic. Caring. How are you doing? She asked, not looking at me. Mom told me what happened at work. I'm fine. It was a misunderstanding. She turned, studied my face. Dad, are you sure? Because it sounds like… I don't know. It sounds serious. I forced myself to meet her eyes, to look tired, defeated, the way she wanted me to look. It'll get sorted out. She brought the soup to the table, sat down across from me, like we were about to have a heart-to-heart. Are you taking your medication? Her voice was gentle, poisonous. You've been so forgetful lately. I just want to make sure you're taking care of yourself. I'm taking it. And the blood pressure, the headaches. I'd told Frank about those. On the phone, days ago. And now here she was asking about them like she'd heard through the grapevine. They're fine. Penelope leaned forward, her hand covering mine. Dad, I'm worried about you. This thing at work. Maybe it's a sign. Maybe the job's too much. Have you thought about retiring early? Taking some time to rest. There it was. The push. Gentle. Relentless. Maybe the universe is telling you it's time to stop, she said softly. I wanted to pull my hand away, wanted to call her out right there, but I couldn't. Not yet. I'll think about it, I said. 20 minutes later, Tyler showed up. Hey Spence, Penelope told me you were home. Thought I'd swing by, see how you're doing. He stood in the doorway, all easy smiles and casual concern like we were buddies, like he hadn't just destroyed my career. I'm all right. Tyler wandered into the kitchen, grabbed a beer from the fridge without asking. Man, that thing at your work sounds crazy. System hacks are no joke. Whoever did that knew what they were doing. Yeah. I mean, breaking into a logistics system that's not script kiddie stuff. That's professional. He took a swig, shook his head. I was just telling Penelope you'd need serious access. Probably someone local. Maybe someone working from one of those coffee shops with public Wi-Fi. You know, like that place on 5th Street, I go there sometimes. Wi-Fi's fast, but zero security. My pulse spiked. 5th Street. The same coffee shop Carlos had traced the IP to. Tyler didn't seem to realize what he'd just said. He kept talking, making jokes about how complicated security protocols were, how easy they were to bypass if you knew what you were doing. He was overconfident, sloppy, and I was taking notes. Sharon came home around 5. Penelope was still there, reheating the soup, setting the table like she lived here. Oh, sweetie, you didn't have to do all this, Sharon said, hugging her daughter. I wanted to. I'm worried about Dad. We sat down to dinner, me, Sharon, Penelope, Tyler. A family meal. Except it wasn't. It was a performance. A trap. Penelope turned to Sharon, her voice careful. Mom, I really think Dad should see Dr. Graham soon. Not next month. Soon. He's been so forgetful. The thing at work. I'm scared he's pushing himself too hard, and something bad's going to happen. Sharon's face crumpled with worry. I've been telling him the same thing. Maybe I should come with him to the appointment, Penelope offered. You know, to help explain what's been going on. Sometimes doctors don't get the full picture unless someone else is there. Sharon looked at me, then back at Penelope. That's a good idea. I felt the walls closing in. Penelope positioning herself as the reliable daughter. The one who could explain to the doctor that Dad was declining, that he needed help. I can handle my own appointments, I said quietly. Penelope's smile was patient, condescending. I know you can, Dad. I just want to help. They left around 7. Tyler's arm around Penelope's shoulders, both of them waving goodbye like everything was normal. The second the door closed, I went to the bathroom. Opened the medicine cabinet. Everything looked normal, blood pressure, meds, aspirin, vitamins. But I pulled out my phone and photographed every bottle, every label, every pill count. If she was going to tamper with something, I'd know. My phone buzzed. Walter. We traced the IP. It's Tyler Brooks, no question. Carlos has the logs. We've got him. I stared at the medicine bottles in my hand. Good, I said. Send everything to Holloway. That night, I locked the bedroom door for the second time in my marriage. Sharon stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. But Wednesday morning, the fitness band would wake me with an alert I'd hate. A warning I couldn't ignore. Because Penelope didn't just want my money. She wanted my body too. The fitness band woke me at 3:17 Wednesday morning with a vibration like an electric shock and a message that made my blood run cold. Irregular heartbeat detected. Seek emergency care. My heart was fine, steady, strong, beating its familiar rhythm in my chest. But the device on my wrist was telling a different story. And for 6 hours, I almost believed it. The screen glowed red in the dark. Heart rate 142 beats per minute. Dangerous. I pressed 2 fingers to my wrist, counted. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. 15 beats in 15 seconds. That was 75. Not 142. The device was lying. Sharon bolted upright beside me. What's wrong? What's that noise? Nothing. It's a false alarm. But she'd already seen the screen. Her face went white. Spencer, it says your heart rate's 142. We need to go to the hospital. Sharon, I'm fine. Look. I pressed her hand to my chest. Feel that steady. Normal. The band says, the band's wrong. But doubt crept into her eyes. Into mine. What if I was wrong? What if my body was failing and I couldn't feel it? What if the device knew something I didn't? That's how gaslighting works. It plants a seed, and then it waits. By 8 a.m., I was sitting in Dr. Helen Graham's office, Sharon beside me, both of us exhausted. Dr. Graham was mid-50s, competent, the kind of doctor who actually listened. But when she walked in, her expression was already tinged with concern. Mr. Brennan, thank you for coming in on short notice. I understand you had a health alert this morning. The fitness band malfunctioned. My heart's fine. She nodded, pulled out her stethoscope. Let's check. Blood pressure 118/76, normal. Pulse 72, normal. Oxygen saturation 98%, normal. Everything looks good, Dr. Graham said, but she didn't sound relieved. She sounded cautious. Then why the concern? She hesitated. Penelope called me yesterday. She's very worried about you. She mentioned memory issues, confusion, the incident at work. She asked if I thought you should consider a cognitive evaluation. The room tilted. Penelope called you. She's concerned, Mr. Brennan. And given what's been happening, the workplace incident, the reports of forgetfulness, I think it might be worth considering. Just to rule things out. Sharon reached for my hand. Spencer, maybe she's right. Maybe we should. I don't need a cognitive evaluation. My voice came out sharper than I intended. I'm fine. Dr. Graham's expression softened. I'm not saying you're not, but stress can affect us in ways we don't realize. Maybe it's time to step back from work. Let yourself rest. She didn't say the word, but I heard it anyway. Decline. They thought I was declining. Throughout the day, the band kept lying. 11:30 a.m. fall detected. Are you okay? I was standing at the kitchen counter making a sandwich. 2:15 p.m. low blood, oxygen detected. I was sitting on the couch reading. 4:40 p.m. irregular heartbeat detected. I was fine. Completely fine. But every alert chipped away at my certainty. Every false alarm built a medical profile that didn't exist. Sharon watched me like I might collapse any second. Maybe you should take the band off. No. I needed to document this. Needed proof that the alerts were fake. I photographed everyone. Time-stamped. Saved. Building my own case against a device that was building a case against me. At 5 p.m., I grabbed the blood pressure medication from the bathroom cabinet and drove to the pharmacy. Dan, the pharmacist, had been filling my prescriptions for years. He looked up when I walked in, smiled. Spencer, what can I do for you? I set the pill bottle on the counter. Can you tell me what's in here? Dan frowned. What do you mean? Just check. Please, make sure it's what the label says. He picked up the bottle, read the label, then opened it, and shook a few pills into his palm. He studied them for a long moment. Then his expression changed. Spencer, these aren't blood pressure meds. My stomach dropped. What are they? Zolpidem. It's a sleep aid, high dose. The world went sideways. Someone swapped them. I don't know how this happened, but yes. These are sedatives. If you've been taking these thinking, they're blood pressure medication. How long would they stay in my system? It depends on dosage and frequency, but Zolpidem can cause drowsiness, confusion, memory problems. In high doses, it can affect coordination, decision-making. The warehouse. The login at 1:47 a.m. The forgetfulness. The grogginess. I'd been drugged, and I need the real prescription, I said, my voice shaking. And I need documentation of this, everything. Photos of the pills, the bottle, a written statement. Dan didn't ask questions. He just nodded and started taking photos. I called Detective Holloway from my truck hands, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles went white. She swapped my medication, blood pressure meds for sleep aids. That's why I couldn't think straight. That's why the warehouse incident happened. Holloway's voice was hard. Spencer, this isn't fraud anymore. This is physical endangerment. She's not just stealing from you, she's creating medical conditions to force you into guardianship. What do I do? Document everything. The false alerts, the medication swap, every interaction. We're building a criminal case now. And Spencer, be careful. If she's willing to drug you, there's no telling what else she'll do. I drove home that evening with a bottle of real medication and a fitness band that kept insisting I was dying. Thursday morning, I'd find papers in the basement. Documents that would prove how close Penelope had come to turning those lies into legal reality. But for now, I just sat in the driveway, listening to my own heartbeat, steady, strong, real, while a device on my wrist told me I was falling apart. And I wondered how much longer I could fight a war where my own body had become the battlefield. Thursday morning, I did something I'd been meaning to do for weeks. Find the home insurance papers. Sharon had asked me to pull them for a policy review. So I headed down to the basement, opened the old filing cabinet we'd had since the 90s, and found something that made every muscle in my body lock up. Papers that shouldn't have been there. Papers with my name on them. Papers that laid out exactly how Penelope planned to erase my existence. The basement was cold, musty, lit by a single bulb that flickered when the furnace kicked on. I pulled open the drawer labeled Insurance/Legal and started flipping through folders. Home insurance, car insurance, life insurance policies. And then I saw it. A brand new manila folder, crisp and clean among the yellowed documents. The tab read, Brennan Estate Planning. I didn't recognize it. Didn't remember filing it. I pulled it out, opened it, and the world tilted. Petition for appointment of guardian. The header was typed in bold, official-looking font. Below it, my name, Spencer Michael Brennan, age 61. Current residence listed. I kept reading. Declaration of incapacity. Request for emergency temporary guardianship. My hands started shaking. I spread the papers across the top of the filing cabinet, forcing myself to read every word. The petition was thorough, professional, terrifying. The first section was titled, Evidence in Support of Guardianship. Under it, 3 categories had been filled in with clinical precision. Workplace incident. Alleged system breach on the listed date resulting in suspension. Subject unable to explain actions. Possible cognitive impairment. Family reports. Memory loss. Multiple instances documented by family members. Subject forgets conversations, appointments, medications. Abnormal medical device data. Continuous health alerts indicating irregular heartbeat, fall detection, low oxygen levels. Subject dismisses concerns, refuses medical evaluation. I stared at the words. Every lie Penelope had planted. Every fake alert. Every manipulation of Sharon. All compiled into a legal document designed to strip me of my rights. Then I found the handwritten notes in the margins. Penelope's handwriting. I recognized it from birthday cards, from shopping lists left on Sharon's kitchen counter. Step 7, establish full control. My blood ran cold. I flipped to the next page. An asset inventory. Typed, neatly categorized. Home plus land, $615,000 paid in full. Retirement accounts 401k and IRA combined $1.1 million. Life insurance policy $850,000, RV $95,000. Total estimated value $2.66 million. And beside the total in Penelope's handwriting, one word. Enough! I couldn't breathe. She'd inventoried my life, calculated my worth, decided it was enough to justify destroying me. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands and started photographing every page. The petition, the asset list, the margin notes, the fake evidence summaries, every single word. My phone buzzed before I'd finished. A text from Sharon found the insurance papers yet. I typed back with shaking fingers almost. I sent the photos to Jonathan Reed, then to Detective Holloway. Then I stood there in the cold basement staring at the papers trying to process what I'd just found. My phone rang. Reed. Spencer, I just got your message. Are you looking at what I think you're looking at? A guardian petition, asset inventory, step-by-step plan to have me declared incompetent. Reed's voice was tight. Don't touch anything else. Don't move those papers. Don't let her know you saw them. Why not? Because if she finds out, you know she'll accelerate. She'll file immediately. Right now, we have time. We have evidence of intent. If she files that petition, it becomes a legal battle. And legal battles take time she could use to do more damage. I looked at the folder, at my name typed across the top. How close was I? Reed was quiet for a moment. If she'd filed this next week with the fake medical evidence, the workplace incident, Sharon's testimony about your forgetfulness, you could have lost access to your bank accounts within 72 hours. Lost medical autonomy, been placed under emergency guardianship pending a full hearing. And then she'd control everything. Your money, your medical care, where you live, whether you can refuse medication, whether you can even leave the house. I closed my eyes, felt the walls of the basement pressing in. How long until I would have been in a nursing home? Days, maybe a week. I met with Reed that afternoon in his office. He'd already reviewed every photo I'd sent. This is premeditation, he said, laying the printouts across his desk. She's been planning this for months. The asset inventory, the timeline, the fabricated evidence, this isn't impulsive. This is calculated. Can we use it? Absolutely. But Spencer, you need to understand something. If she's willing to go this far with legal documents, she's not going to stop just because we've blocked this route. She's going to try something else. Like what? Reed's expression was grim. I don't know. But people who are this determined don't just give up. They escalate. I thought about the medication swap, the fake health alerts, the warehouse sabotage. She'd already escalated, multiple times. What do? You keep documenting. You stay vigilant. And you don't let your guard down for a second. I drove home that evening with copies of the guardianship papers locked in my truck's glove compartment. The originals were back in the filing cabinet exactly where I'd found them. Penelope couldn't know I'd seen them, but I knew. I knew how close I'd come. Days, maybe hours. One signature, one judge's approval, and I would have been gone, legally erased, locked away, stripped of every right I'd spent 61 years taking for granted. That afternoon, I understood something I'd been trying not to see. Penelope wasn't going to stop. She'd tried surveillance, manipulation, legal fraud. All of it had failed. Now she was going to try the most direct method. The one that didn't require courts or paperwork. The one that only required physics, gravity, and my truck moving at 70 miles an hour. The weekend passed in the kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. Sharon asked me twice if I was feeling all right. I told her I was tired. That much was true. What I didn't tell her was that I'd spent both days photographing every document in our house, every asset statement, every insurance policy, building a fortress on paper because the walls around my life were already on fire. Monday morning at 8:47, my phone lit up with a name I recognized, but a number I didn't. Great Lakes Community Bank Fraud Department. I answered on the second ring. Mr. Brennan, this is Michelle Porter, Fraud Investigations. I need you to come to the branch this morning. We have a situation that requires your immediate attention. Her voice was calm, professional, but there was an edge underneath it. The kind of edge you hear when someone's trying not to alarm you while simultaneously sounding the alarm. What kind of situation? I'd prefer to discuss it in person. Can you be here by 10? I told her I could. I didn't tell her I'd be there in 20 minutes. Michelle Porter's office was small, glass-walled, tucked into the back corner of the branch. She was younger than I expected, maybe mid-40s, with sharp eyes and a stack of printed emails on her desk that looked like evidence at a crime scene. She didn't waste time. Mr. Brennan, over the past 3 weeks, we've received 6 phone calls from someone claiming to be your daughter, Penelope Foster. She's been insistent that you're experiencing cognitive decline and that she needs access to your accounts to manage your finances. I felt my chest tighten. She's my stepdaughter, and I'm not experiencing cognitive decline. I believe you, Michelle said. She slid a printed call log across the desk. October 12th, 16th, 21st, 24th, 28th, and November 2nd. Each time she claimed you were forgetting bills, making unsafe financial decisions, and that your wife was in denial about your condition. I stared at the dates. They lined up perfectly with the timeline Walter and I had been building. Every piece of bait I'd fed her, every fake health scare, every mention of the RV sale she'd been using it to build her case with the bank. There's more, Michelle said. She opened an email and turned her monitor toward me. Subject urgent. Next steps for Spencer Brennan, account access. The message was clinical, persuasive, terrifying. Penelope had attached a draft of the guardianship petition I'd found in our file cabinet, the one with her handwriting in the margins. She'd sent it to the bank as proof that legal proceedings were underway. She'd listed my assets, my account balances, my insurance policies. She'd called herself my primary family advocate and described me as cognitively disintegrating. I felt sick. She also attempted a transfer, Michelle said quietly. What? She pulled up another screen. Early Saturday morning, 2:17 a.m., someone logged into your online banking portal using your username. They attempted to transfer $50,000 to an external account under the name Penelope Foster. The room tilted. How? The login was successful. Username and password were both correct. But the transfer was blocked because we require verbal password authentication for any external transfers over $10,000. That's the security protocol you set up with your attorney last month. The walls I'd built had held. The person on the other end of that login knew your account number, your balance, and your security question answers, Michelle continued. But they didn't have the verbal password. After 3 failed attempts, the system locked the account and flagged it for fraud review. I sat back in my chair, hands shaking. She was in my house. She had access to everything. Michelle nodded. Mr. Brennan, I've worked in fraud investigations for 12 years. This is one of the most organized attempts at financial exploitation I've ever seen. Whoever's behind this knew exactly what they were doing. So it's her, I said, and her boyfriend. They've been planning this for months. I called Holloway from the parking lot. He answered on the first ring. She tried to move $50,000 out of my account Saturday morning, I said. The bank stopped it. There was a pause. Then, Spencer, this is good. This is evidence. Real, actionable evidence. We can use this. She sent them the guardianship papers. She told them I was losing my mind. I know. And now we have proof she's lying. The bank's security held. Your planning worked. She's not going to stop, I said. Holloway's voice dropped. No, she's not. And that's what worries me. When people like this hit a wall, when their plans start falling apart, they don't back off. They escalate. They get desperate, and desperate people do reckless things. I thought about the medication tampering, the fake health alerts, the warehouse sabotage. Every move had been calculated, careful, designed to build a narrative. But now she knew the banks were locked. The lawyers were involved. The police were watching. What would she do when calculations stopped working? I got in my truck and headed home. The highway was clear, the sky bright. I pressed the gas pedal and hit 70 miles an hour, the engine humming steady beneath me. I was thinking about Michelle's words, about Holloway's warning, about the guardianship papers with Penelope's handwriting in the margins. That's when I felt it, the brake pedal soft under my foot. Too soft. 73 miles an hour. Red light ahead. Traffic stopped at the intersection. And I realized that desperation doesn't always show up on paper. Sometimes it comes at an intersection at 73 miles an hour with brakes that don't work. The intersection was 50 feet away. 40. 30. My foot was on the brake pedal, but it felt like I was pressing into a sponge. Red light. Cross traffic, not stopping. And in that instant, I had one thought: she actually did this. She actually wants me gone. I yanked the emergency brake. The truck shuddered, tires screaming, but momentum kept dragging me forward. 20 feet. 15. A sedan flashed past my windshield, horn blaring. I cranked the wheel hard, right felt the back end swing out, and suddenly I was sideways, skidding across asphalt toward the concrete barrier. The impact was like a bomb. Airbag exploded into my face-chest harness, locked, and the world went white, then silent. I sat there gasping, tasting blood. The engine ticked. Steam hissed from the crumpled hood. My hands were locked on the wheel, knuckles white. I was alive. People were running toward me, shouting. Someone pulled open the door. I nodded, couldn't speak. My ribs screamed where the seatbelt had caught me, but I was alive, and I knew this wasn't an accident. 2 hours later, I was standing in Dan Torres's garage, watching him crawl under what was left of my truck. Dan had been working on vehicles in this town for 30 years. If something was wrong, he'd find it. He found it in less than 5 minutes. "Spencer, come here." I crouched down beside him. He pointed a flashlight at the brake line. Even I could see it, a clean, deliberate cut halfway through the metal tubing. This wasn't wear and tear," Dan said. "This was done with a blade, sharp, precise. See how it's not frayed? That's a surgical cut." My chest tightened. How long ago? Within the last 48 hours. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. They didn't cut it all the way through, just enough that pressure and heat would finish the job once you were moving. At high speed? Exactly. At low speeds, you'd have enough hydraulic pressure left to slow down, but at 70 miles an hour, you'd have nothing. I stood up, legs shaking. "Can you document this?" "Already started." Dan pulled out his phone, started snapping pictures. "Spencer, do you know who did this?" I looked at the cut line, at the calculated precision. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I know." Detective Holloway met me at the garage 20 minutes later. He studied the brake line in silence, then turned to Dan. "You're certain this was deliberate?" "No question. I've seen brake lines fail. Rust, corrosion, metal fatigue. This isn't that. This is sabotage." Holloway took his own photos, made notes, then pulled me aside. "Spencer, this changes everything. We're no longer talking about financial fraud. This is attempted murder, or at minimum reckless endangerment with intent to cause serious bodily harm. Can you prove it was her?" "Not yet, but the timeline fits. She knows the bank accounts are locked. She knows you've lawyered up. And now suddenly your brake line gets cut." He met my eyes. "She's running out of options. So what do? You don't confront her. You don't let her know you survived, or that we found evidence. Right now she thinks this worked, or at least caused enough chaos. If you tip her off, she'll destroy evidence or try again." I thought about calling her, screaming, demanding answers. But the second she knew I'd survived and found the cut brake line, she'd know I was onto her. What would stop her from trying again? Walter found me in the garage parking lot an hour later, sitting in his truck, because mine was totaled. "You look like hell," he said. "You feel like it too." He handed me a bottle of water and sat quiet for a minute. "You're thinking about calling her," Walter said finally. How'd you know?" "Because that's what I'd want to do. Hear her voice. See if she sounds worried or relieved. But Spencer, the second you call, you lose the advantage." "What advantage?" "She tried to kill me. And she failed. Right now, she doesn't know if you figured it out or if you think it was bad luck. That uncertainty keeps her off balance. The minute you call, she'll hear it in your voice. She'll know." I leaned my head back. Every part of me ached. "So I do nothing. You do what Holloway said. You document. You build the case. And when the time's right, you bury her with evidence she can't deny. Sharon was home when I finally walked through the door around 8. The second she saw my face, bruised, swollen, exhausted, she started crying. "Oh my God, Spencer, what happened? Accident, brake failure, I'm okay." She pulled me into the kitchen, made me sit, started examining the bruises. "You need to go to the hospital." "I'm fine, just shaken up." "Your truck, totaled, but I'm okay. That's what matters." She held my face in her hands, tears streaming. "You could have died, but I didn't." She hugged me then, and I held her, feeling the weight of every lie I'd told, every secret I'd kept, every wall I'd built between us to protect her from the truth about her daughter. And I knew I couldn't keep doing this much longer. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My body ached. My mind raced. And all I could think about was Penelope's voice. What would she sound like if I called her concerned, surprised, guilty? Wednesday morning, I was going to make a mistake I'd regret almost instantly. I was going to pick up the phone and call Penelope. And the moment I heard her voice shift cold instead of concerned, calculated instead of caring, I'd know I'd just shown my hand. Tuesday moved like walking through mud. The silence after the action was worse than the action itself. By 9 o'clock Wednesday morning, I cracked. I picked up the phone and did the one thing Holloway had begged me not to do. I called her directly. She answered on the third ring. "Spencer, hi, how are you?" Her voice was warm, concerned. "The dutiful daughter. I need to talk to you about something." "Of course. What's going on? Mom said you had an accident. Are you okay?" I gripped the phone tighter. "The bank called me Monday. They said you've been contacting them, asking about my accounts." Silence. Just for a heartbeat. But I heard it. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said carefully. "They have records, Penelope. 6 phone calls, emails. You sent them guardianship papers." Another pause. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. Flatter. Colder. "Dad, I'm worried about you. You're not sounding like yourself. Have you been taking your medication?" The word dad didn't sound affectionate anymore. It sounded like a weapon. "I know about the fitness band. I know it was modified." The silence stretched longer this time. When she finally spoke, all pretense was gone. "You're confused, Spencer. You've been forgetting things. The incident at work. The accident with your truck. Maybe you need help. Maybe you need someone to make decisions for you." My blood ran cold. Not because of what she said, but how she said it. Clinical. Detached. Like she was reading from a script she'd practiced. "Stay away from me," I said. "Stay away from Sharon. I know what you're doing. Do you?" Her voice was ice. "Because from where I'm sitting, you sound like a man who's falling apart, who's dangerous to himself and others, who needs intervention." "I'm calling the police." "You already did that, didn't you?" "And what did they find? A fitness band you claim was modified. A truck accident you blame on someone else. A workplace incident that got you suspended." She paused. "You sound paranoid, Spencer. Unstable. Good luck convincing anyone otherwise." She hung up. I sat there, phone in my hand, staring at nothing. I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. I called Holloway 10 minutes later, hands still shaking. I confronted her. I heard him exhale slowly. "Spencer, I know, but she—" My voice cracked. Her voice changed. The mask came off completely. She threatened me, said I sounded unstable. "She's establishing a narrative," Holloway said quietly. "Now she knows you know, which means she has 2 options: run, or make one final desperate move before we can build enough evidence to stop her. Which one do you think she'll choose? I don't know. But Spencer, the next 48 hours are going to be critical. Stay vigilant. Don't be alone. And for God's sake, don't engage with her again. What if she comes after Sharon? Then we document it. We record everything. But right now, you've tipped your hand. The only thing we can do is wait and see how she responds. The waiting was worse than anything that had come before. Wednesday afternoon, nothing. No calls, no texts, no contact. Thursday, Sharon tried calling Penelope 3 times. Voicemail, no response. She's not answering, Sharon said, anxiety creeping into her voice. Spencer, what did you say to her? She won't return my calls. We had a disagreement. About what? It doesn't matter. It does to me. She's my daughter. I looked at her. At the woman who'd been caught between us without knowing why. Who'd been manipulated by her own child and lied to by her husband. Sharon, I can't explain right now, but I need you to trust me. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't know if I can do that anymore. By Friday morning, the silence felt like a physical weight. No contact. No movement. It was like Penelope had vanished. Walter called during lunch. You hear anything? Nothing. It's been 2 days. That's not good, brother. Silence means she's planning something. Or she's running. You believe that? I thought about her voice on the phone. The cold calculation. The threat wrapped in concern. No, and I said, I don't. Friday evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table when my email pinged. Subject about Penelope Foster. The sender was someone named Eric Harper. I didn't recognize the name. I opened it. Mr. Brennan. My name is Eric Harper. Penelope Foster is my half-sister. I found your name through a private investigator I hired to track her movements after she disappeared 3 years ago. She's done this before. To our father. Dad died 3 years ago believing he was losing his mind, believing he was a burden. Penelope convinced him and everyone around him that he had dementia. She isolated him, manipulated his medications, created a medical record that didn't exist. By the time I figured out what was happening, it was too late. He'd already changed his will, already signed power of attorney, already given her everything. He died 6 months later. The coroner said heart failure. I think it was a broken heart. I've been looking for her ever since. When her name appeared on a property search linked to your address, I knew she'd found another target. I have documentation, medical records, emails, a pattern. Please call me. I can help you stop her. I couldn't save my father, but maybe I can help you. Eric Harper. A phone number followed. I read the email 3 times. Then I called the number. Eric answered immediately. His voice was rough-tired. The voice of someone who'd carried guilt for 3 years. Mr. Brennan, tell me about your father, I said. And as Eric talked about manipulation, about fake medical evidence, about a man who died thinking he was crazy, I realized something that made my blood run cold. I wasn't Penelope's first target. I was just the first to survive long enough to fight back. The coffee shop was 40 minutes from my house, tucked into a strip mall, in a town where nobody knew my name. Eric Harper was sitting in the back corner when I arrived. When he saw me, his eyes filled with something I recognized immediately, the look of a man who'd failed someone and couldn't forgive himself. He stood when I approached. Mid-30s, lean, exhausted. Mr. Brennan? Spencer. I shook his hand. Thank you for reaching out. We sat. Eric pulled out a thick manila envelope and set it on the table. I should have done this 3 years ago, he said quietly. When I first suspected. But I kept hoping I was wrong about my sister. Tell me about your father. Eric took a breath. Richard Harper, 65 years old, retired electrician, healthy, sharp, independent. And in 6 months, Penelope convinced everyone, including him, that he was losing his mind. The words hit like a punch. How? My same way she's doing it to you. Eric opened the envelope, pulled out documents. Dad lived alone after Mom died. Penelope showed up, said she wanted to reconnect, moved into his guest room to help out. Within 2 weeks, he started having memory problems. Did medication. Almost certainly. But by the time I figured it out, it was too late to prove. She'd convinced his doctor he needed cognitive testing, convinced him he was forgetting appointments, losing things, making dangerous decisions. I stared at the documents. Medical reports, emails, power of attorney forms. She got him to sign over power of attorney. Eric continued. Said it was just a precaution. 3 weeks later, she'd transferred half his assets, changed beneficiaries on his life insurance, started talking to his friends about how worried she was. And your father, Eric's voice cracked. He believed her, thought he was losing his mind, thought he was a burden. 6 months after she moved in, he died of what the coroner called heart failure. I think he died of a broken heart. I couldn't breathe. I tried to contest the will, Eric said, but she'd built a paper trail, medical records, witness statements, a narrative that painted my father as incompetent and me as greedy. By the time I hired investigators, she'd disappeared, changed her name, vanished. He pushed a photograph across the table. Until now, it was a funeral photo, mourners around a casket, and in the back, almost out of frame, Penelope and Tyler. My stomach dropped. He was there, Eric said. At my father's funeral. That's when I started digging. That's when I found out Tyler Brooks isn't her boyfriend. He's her husband. They got married 4 years ago, before she ever contacted my father. Married, Las Vegas. Quick ceremony. I found the certificate through a private investigator. He slid another document across. Marriage certificate. Penelope Foster and Tyler Brooks 4 years earlier. She told me he was her boyfriend. I said numbly. That's the script, Eric said. Boyfriend sounds temporary. Husband raises questions. But that's exactly what they are. A team. Professional. Practiced. He pulled out more documents. Screenshots. Bank records. After Dad died, I hired someone to track Tyler. He's got a record. Computer fraud in Nevada. Identity theft in Arizona. Elder exploitation in Oregon. Different names, different stories, same pattern. He's the tech guy. He modifies devices, hacks, systems, creates fake medical data. Penelope's the face, the concerned daughter. They work together. I thought about the fitness band, the warehouse hack, the fake health alerts. How many? 4 confirmed victims in the last 10 years. All men over 60. All died or were incapacitated within a year. All left significant assets that disappeared into untraceable accounts. 4 men, 4 families destroyed. Why didn't the police connect them? Different states, different names, different methods. Until I started connecting the dots, there was no pattern. Just isolated cases that didn't raise enough flags. I looked at the photograph. At Tyler and Penelope at Richard Harper's funeral. At the calculated partnership I'd mistaken for a casual relationship. I contacted Detective Holloway yesterday, Eric said. Sent him everything I had. He's bringing in the FBI. FBI, interstate fraud, multiple victims across state lines, federal jurisdiction. They'll have resources local police don't. My phone buzzed. Walter. Tyler Brooks, real name Tyler Kasdan. Warrants in 3 states. Specialized in elder fraud and identity theft. Holloway's connecting with FBI field office. This is bigger than we thought. I showed Eric the text. He nodded unsurprised. I've been tracking them for 3 years, he said quietly. Waiting for them to surface. Hoping I could stop them before they did to someone else what they did to my father. You couldn't have known. I should have. His voice broke. I should have seen it sooner. Should have fought harder. My father died thinking he was crazy. Thinking he was nothing. I reached across the table, gripped his shoulder. We're going to stop them. Together. Eric met my eyes. For the first time since I'd walked in, I saw something other than guilt. Hope. Tomorrow. He said, I'll bring everything I have. Dad's medical records, financial documents, photos, recordings, everything. We're going to show exactly what they did. And we're going to make sure they can't do it again. I drove home that afternoon with Eric's envelope on the passenger seat. Inside was proof I wasn't crazy. Proof I wasn't alone. Proof that Penelope and Tyler had done this before and gotten away with it. But not this time. Tomorrow we'd lay out Richard Harper's story. We'd trace every manipulation, every lie, every calculated move. And we'd build a case so airtight that even Penelope's fake medical records and manufactured narratives couldn't save her. I wasn't her first target, but I was going to make damn sure I was her last. Sunday afternoon, Eric opened the box he'd kept hidden for 3 years. Inside were the things he couldn't throw away, but couldn't bear to look at photographs of his father before and after Penelope arrived. Medical records that told the story of a manufactured decline, and one phone message he'd never deleted. We were in Eric's apartment, a small one-bedroom that looked like every other complex in America. Functional, anonymous, the kind of place you live when you're not really living. He set the box on the kitchen table. His hands were shaking. "I haven't opened this in 2 years," he said quietly. "After the funeral, after the lawyers, after everything fell apart, I packed it all up. But I couldn't throw it away. Some part of me knew I'd need it someday." He pulled out a photograph. A man in his mid-60s standing in front of a garage holding a fishing rod. Solid build. Clear eyes. The kind of guy who looked like he could work all day and still have energy left. "That's Dad," Eric said. 2 months before Penelope showed up. 190 healthy sharp. He'd just retired. Had plans to travel, build furniture, spend time with grandkids he'd never had. He set down another photo. Same man. 4 months later, I felt my chest tighten. Richard Harper looked like he'd aged 20 years. His face was gaunt, cheeks hollow. His eyes, the same eyes that had looked so alive in the first photo, were vacant. Empty. The way you look when you've given up. 150 pounds. Eric said, his voice breaking. He lost 40 pounds in 4 months. Stopped sleeping, stopped eating, stopped going out. Penelope told everyone it was dementia. Told the doctor he was refusing meals, wandering at night, getting confused. But it wasn't dementia. No. It was isolation, medication, psychological warfare. She convinced him his mind was going, convinced him he was a burden, and the more he believed it, the more he declined. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Eric pulled out medical records. I scanned them. Cognitive assessments showing declining scores. Medication changes, antipsychotics, sedatives, doses that would flatten anyone. Notes from a doctor who'd been fed a narrative by Penelope. She was good, Eric said bitterly. She played the role perfectly. Worried, exhausted, doing everything she could. And Dad believed her because why wouldn't he? She was his daughter. Did she ever love him? Eric was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, he said finally. When we were kids, Penelope was different. She lied. Small things at first, blaming others, taking money from Mom's purse. But she was also charming. People liked her, believed her. What changed? Her first marriage. She was 23, married a guy with money. 2 years later, he filed for divorce. Left her with nothing but debt. That's when the lying got worse. More calculated. More predatory. And Tyler, she met him 5 years ago. I don't know the full story, but I think he saw something in her. Someone he could work with. And I think she saw someone who could teach her how to turn manipulation into profit. Eric rubbed his face. I've thought about this a lot. Whether she was always capable of this, or whether Tyler made her worse. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. She had the instincts. He gave her the tools. Together they became something worse than either of them could have been alone. He pulled out his phone, opened a voicemail. This is the call I got 3 weeks before Dad died. He pressed play. Richard Harper's voice filled the kitchen. tired, confused, desperate. Eric, it's Dad. I don't know what time it is. Late. I needed to talk to someone. Penelope says I'm getting worse, that I need more help. But Eric, I don't feel sick. I feel trapped. This house doesn't feel like home anymore. There are cameras everywhere now. She says it's for my safety, but I feel like I'm being watched all the time. I just wanted to hear your voice. Call me back, please! The message ended. Eric's eyes were wet. I didn't call him back, he said. Not that night. I told myself I'd do it in the morning, that he was just tired, confused, that Penelope was doing her best and I shouldn't interfere. Eric, I should have listened. His voice broke. I should have gotten in my car and driven there. Should have looked him in the eye and asked if he was okay. Really okay, but I didn't. And 3 weeks later, he was dead. I reached across the table, gripped his arm. You couldn't have known, but I should have. He looked at me, tears streaming. And that's why I reached out to you, because I can't let it happen again. I can't sit by while she does to someone else what she did to my father. We're going to stop her, I said. How? With this. I gestured to the box. With everything you have. The photos, the records, the timeline. We're going to show the pattern, and when the time comes, you're going to stand up and tell them exactly what happened. Eric wiped his eyes. I'll testify, anywhere, anytime, whatever you need. The bank meeting is scheduled for next week, I said. Detective Holloway's coordinating with the FBI. They want to confront Penelope directly, with evidence. With witnesses. I'll be there. We sat in silence, two men bound by grief and fury, and a shared determination to make sure Penelope Foster never destroyed another family. I drove home as the sun was setting Eric's box in my passenger seat. Inside were the pieces of Richard Harper's stolen life. Proof that what I was experiencing wasn't new, wasn't unique, but it would be the last time. Tonight or tomorrow morning, I was going to do the hardest thing I'd done in this entire nightmare. I was going to tell Sharon the truth, that her daughter had done this before, that she was doing it again, and that the woman we both thought we knew didn't exist. Sharon, I need you to sit down. 7 words that ended one version of our marriage and began another. My wife looked at me, and I saw in her eyes the fear of something terrible about to arrive. It was Monday morning. She'd been making coffee. I'd been awake all night rehearsing this conversation, trying to find the right words to tell the woman I loved that her daughter was trying to destroy me. There were no right words. She sat at the kitchen table. I sat across from her. Between us, I laid out everything the VitaTrack Pro in its evidence bag, the guardianship petition with Penelope's handwriting, the mechanic's report showing the deliberately cut brake line, and the photographs Eric had given me Richard Harper before and after his daughter moved in. What is all this? Sharon's voice was small. It's proof, I said. Proof that Penelope's been planning to have me declared incompetent so she can control our assets. Spencer, that's insane. The fitness band she gave me was modified. It had a hidden microphone and GPS tracker. She's been listening to everything I say, everything we say. Sharon stared at the device. No, Penelope wouldn't. She sabotaged my workplace, got me suspended. She tampered with my medication. She cut the brake line on my truck, Sharon. She tried to kill me. Stop. Sharon's hands were shaking. You're wrong. I wish I was. I pushed the guardianship papers toward her. Write it. It's in her handwriting. She's been building a case that I'm incompetent. Memory loss, confusion, all fabricated. Sharon picked up the papers, scanned them. I watched her face. Denial, confusion, recognition. This is her writing, she whispered. Yes, but there has to be an explanation. I pushed the photographs across the table. This is Richard Harper, Eric's father, Penelope's biological father. He died 3 years ago. Sharon looked at the first photo. A healthy man in his 60s, smiling, holding a fishing rod. Then the second photo. The same man 4 months later, gaunt, hollow, broken. What happened to him? Penelope happened. She moved in to help. 6 months later, he was dead. Heart failure, they said. But really, he died believing he was losing his mind. She got power of attorney, transferred his assets. Then he was gone. Sharon's face went white. You're saying Penelope killed her father. I'm saying she destroyed him, the same way she's trying to destroy me. No. Sharon stood up, backed away. I would have known. She's good at hiding it. She's been doing this for years. With her father. With me. Probably with others we don't know about. You're lying. Her voice cracked. I wish I was. I pulled out my phone. There's someone you need to meet. Eric Harper, Penelope's half-brother. He's been tracking her for 3 years. Sharon sank back into her chair, tears streaming. And one more thing, I said quietly. Tyler isn't her boyfriend. He's her husband. They got married 4 years ago. He's a con artist with warrants in 3 states. They're a team. Married. I showed her the marriage certificate, Eric's documentation, the pattern of fraud. Sharon covered her face and sobbed. I wanted to comfort her, but I couldn't. Because nothing about this was okay. After a long moment, Sharon looked up. Her eyes were red, but there was something harder there now. I want to hear it from her, she said. I want to call her and hear her deny it. Sharon tourned. Now. I pulled out my phone, put it on speaker, and dialed. Penelope answered on the second ring. Spencer, is everything okay? Her voice was warm, concerned. Penelope, it's Mom. Sharon's voice shook. I'm here with Spencer. He's telling me things I don't understand. About your father. About Richard Harper. Silence. Mom. I don't know what Spencer's been telling you, but he's not well. You know that. He's been having episodes. Did you live with your father before he died? Another pause. Mom, this isn't... Did you? Yes, I was helping him. He was sick. And did you get power of attorney over his finances? He needed help. Sharon's voice broke. Did you cause your father's death? The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. When Penelope finally spoke, her voice was different. Cold. Flat. Leave me alone, Mother. She hung up. Sharon stared at the phone, at the evidence, at me. Oh my God, she whispered. It's true. I reached for her hand. She pulled away. How long have you known? A few weeks. And you didn't tell me. I couldn't. Not until I had proof. Sharon walked to the window, stood with her back to me. When she turned around, her face was set. When is the meeting? What meeting? The one where you're going to confront her. With the bank. With the police. On Tuesday, 10 a.m., Sharon nodded. I'll be there. I need to look her in the face when the truth comes out. Sharon, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Her voice was steel. She's my daughter. And I need to see who she really is. That afternoon, I sent an email to Penelope. Tuesday, 10 a.m., Great Lakes Community Bank. We need to discuss your concerns about my competency and your requests for account access. Please bring Tyler. Detective Holloway and my attorney will be present. See you there. Spencer. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. She had no idea she was walking into an ambush. No idea that Eric would be there with evidence of what she'd done to her father. No idea that Sharon would be sitting across from her finally seeing the truth. Tuesday morning in that conference room, the lies would stop, and Penelope Foster's carefully constructed world would come crashing down. Before I walk into that conference room and face Penelope for the last time, I need to know you're still with me. Type here in the comments right now if you're ready to see what happens when all the lies come crashing down. And a quick reminder, the story ahead contains some fictionalized elements for dramatic effect. If that's not for you, feel free to stop here. But if you want to see justice served, keep watching. 10 o'clock, Tuesday morning. Penelope walked into the conference room at Great Lakes Community Bank, carrying a leather folder and wearing the expression of someone who believed she'd already won. Then she saw Eric. Her face went white. The folder slipped in her hands. "Hello, Penelope," Eric said quietly. She recovered fast, years of practice, but I'd seen it. The flash of panic. "What is this?" Her voice was sharp. "Spencer, what's going on?" I gestured to the table. Detective Holloway sat to my right. Jonathan Reed to my left. Michelle Porter across from us. And Eric Harper, the brother she'd thought she'd left behind. Sharon sat in the corner silent. "Sit down, Penelope," Holloway said. "I don't understand." "Sit down." She sat. Her eyes kept darting to Eric, calculating. Michelle Porter opened a file. "Mrs. Foster, over the past 3 weeks, you've contacted this bank 6 times requesting access to Spencer Brennan's accounts. You've sent emails claiming he's cognitively impaired and in need of immediate financial management. I was concerned. You attached guardianship petition documents to those emails. Documents you drafted yourself citing fabricated evidence." Penelope's jaw tightened. "My stepfather has been exhibiting. Your stepfather has been under investigation for 6 weeks. Every claim you've made has been documented and disproven." Michelle slid printed emails across the table. Penelope's own words laid out like evidence at trial. "Detective Holloway," Michelle said. Holloway opened his folder. "Ms. Foster, 3 weeks ago, you replaced Spencer Brennan's blood pressure medication with Zolpidem, a sedative. The pharmacist documented the tampering. We have your fingerprints on the bottle?" Penelope said nothing. Her hands were shaking. 2 weeks ago, the brake line on Mr. Brennan's truck was deliberately cut. A mechanic's report confirms sabotage. Security footage shows a vehicle matching Tyler Brooks's car near Mr. Brennan's residence the night before. I don't know what you're... And 4 days ago, Mr. Brennan's workplace system was hacked using his credentials. The IP address traces to 5th Street. Tyler Brooks was seen there at the time of the breach. Penelope's composure was cracking. Tyler has everything to do with this," Eric said. All eyes turned to him. Penelope's voice was venomous. "You have no right to be here. I have every right." Eric pulled out a photograph Richard Harper at his funeral, Tyler in the background. "You did this before Penelope. To our father." That's not 6 months. That's how long it took you to destroy him. You moved in to help. You isolated him. Convinced him he was losing his mind. Got power of attorney. Transferred his assets. Then he died believing he was incompetent and alone. Penelope stood. "This is insane." "Sit down," Holloway ordered. "I don't have to listen." "Yes, you do." Eric's voice was steel. "I've spent 3 years documenting what you did. Medical records, financial statements, witness testimony. A pattern of elder exploitation spanning a decade." He pushed a thick binder across the table. 4 victims, all men over 60, all isolated, manipulated, financially destroyed. And all of them had someone playing the concerned family member. You. Penelope's mask was gone. Her face twisted with rage. "You were always weak, Eric." "Mr. Reed," Holloway said. Jonathan Reed pulled out a document. "Ms. Foster, you presented yourself as Tyler Brooks's girlfriend." "That's a lie." He slid the paper across. "Marriage certificate. Penelope Foster and Tyler Brooks married 4 years ago in Las Vegas. You and Mr. Brooks are legally married. You're not a concerned stepdaughter. You're part of a criminal conspiracy to defraud elderly victims through surveillance manipulation and financial exploitation." Penelope's eyes were wild. She looked at Sharon. "Mom, you can't believe this." Sharon didn't move, didn't speak. Just stared at her daughter like she was looking at a stranger. You're pathetic, Penelope hissed. All of you! You stupid old fool! She jabbed a finger at me. You handed me everything. Your passwords, your health information, your assets. You were so desperate to be liked that you gave it all away. And we documented every move you made. I said quietly. The door opened. 2 uniformed officers stepped in. Penelope Foster. Holloway said, standing, "You're being detained for investigation of elder fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit fraud, and attempted assault. You have the right to remain silent." "Oh, this is bullshit!" Penelope lunged toward me, but the officers grabbed her arms. "You can't prove any of this. You're insane." They pulled her toward the door. She was screaming now. Mom, don't let them do this, Mom." Sharon turned away, tears streaming down her face. The door closed. The screaming faded. Silence filled the room. Eric exhaled slowly. Michelle Porter closed her files. Reed gathered his documents. I looked at Sharon. She was gripping the back of her chair, like it was the only thing holding her up. Sharon, she shook her head, walked out. I found her in the lobby 5 minutes later, collapsed in a chair, sobbing into her hands. I'd won the battle. The evidence was documented. Penelope was in custody. The fraud had been stopped. But as I sat down beside Sharon and watched her break apart, I realized the hardest part was just beginning. Because winning wasn't the same as healing. And healing from this kind of betrayal from your own daughter might take the rest of our lives. 3 months later, I stood in the parking lot of the distribution center Keys, in one hand coffee in the other. The VitaTrack Pro fitness band sat in an evidence locker somewhere tagged and cataloged. On my wrist, I wore my grandfather's old analog watch. No GPS, no microphone, no data stream. I called it freedom. Walter was already at his station when I clocked in. He grinned when he saw me. "Morning, Spence. How's the relic treating you? And keeps better time than that fancy thing ever did." My suspension had been lifted 6 weeks ago. The company apologized. My colleagues knew the truth now, not all of it, but enough. I wasn't the guy who'd screwed up. I was the guy who'd survived. Kevin clapped me on the shoulder during break. "Good to have you back, man. Small moments. But after months of feeling like I was losing everything, small moments meant everything." Detective Holloway called that afternoon. Federal grand jury returned indictments yesterday. Penelope and Tyler are facing 18 counts. Elder fraud, identity theft, conspiracy wire fraud, attempted assault. We've identified 6 additional victims across 4 states. Total financial harm north of $3 million. 6 more. At least, Eric's been helping us connect the dots. They've been running this operation for close to a decade. He paused. Trial's not until next year, but bail was denied. They're done. I should have felt triumphant. Mostly I just felt tired. Thanks for calling, Detective. Thank you for fighting back. Because of you, we're stopping them from hurting anyone else. That night, Sharon and I sat in Dr. Helen Graham's office for our weekly therapy session. We'd been coming for 2 months now. Sharon stared at her hands. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed. The lies when she was young. The manipulation. I told myself she'd changed, but she hadn't, and I didn't want to see it. Dr. Graham leaned forward. "Sharon, you're not responsible for your daughter's choices. You can grieve the person you thought she was without taking blame for the person she became." "How are you not angry with me?" Sharon asked me. "Because you're a victim too." We sat in silence. "Are you staying?" Sharon asked finally. "With me." I'd thought about that question every day for 3 months. "Yeah, I'm staying. But we have to be honest. No more secrets. No more protecting each other from hard truths." Sharon nodded. "I can do that." It wasn't romantic, but it was real. And real was what we needed. Saturday morning, I met Eric at a coffee shop downtown. We'd been doing this every week since the confrontation. "How's the FBI work going?" I asked. Eric stirred his coffee. "Good. They've got me consulting on elder fraud cases now. 4 active investigations, all similar patterns. Adult children isolating elderly victims, manipulating health records, draining assets. And you're stopping them!" "We're trying." He smiled, sad but genuine. Spending 3 years tracking Penelope felt like drowning, but now using what I learned to help other people, it feels like I'm finally doing something that matters. "You saved my life, Eric." Maybe we saved each other. That evening, I stood at a podium in the community center, looking out at about 40 people. The local senior advocacy group had asked me to speak about elder fraud. I told my story: the fitness band, the medication tampering, the fake health alerts, the guardianship petition, the break line. "Trust your instincts," I said. "If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone isolate you. Don't sign documents under pressure. Don't give up control of your finances without legal counsel. And if you think you're being manipulated, document everything. Build a record." A woman in the front row raised her hand. "What if the person manipulating you is someone you love?" I thought about Penelope, about Sharon, about the way love could be weaponized. "Then it's going to hurt," I said honestly. "But protecting yourself isn't betraying them. It's surviving. And sometimes survival is the most loving thing you can do." The crowd asked questions for another 20 minutes. I gave resources, shared Holloway's contact, told them about Eric's advocacy work. When it was over, a man in his 70s approached me. "My daughter's been asking me to sign power of attorney. Says it's just a precaution, but something feels off. After hearing you, I'm going to talk to a lawyer first." "Good," I said. "Trust yourself." I drove home as the sun set. The analog watch on my wrist ticked steadily. No alerts, no surveillance. Just time passing the way it was meant to. Sharon was home when I walked in. She'd made dinner. We ate together, talking about small things, the kind of conversation you have when you're rebuilding trust one meal at a time. It wasn't perfect. Some nights the silence was heavy. Some nights Sharon cried. Some nights I couldn't sleep. But we were here, together, trying, and that was enough. Survival, I'd learned, wasn't about going back to who you were before the trauma. It wasn't about pretending nothing happened. It was about becoming someone new, someone who knew the value of trust, but also knew how to protect it. Someone who'd been broken and decided to keep standing anyway. 3 months ago, I'd sat in a bank conference room and watched my stepdaughter get arrested for trying to destroy me. Today, I stood in my kitchen, wearing my grandfather's watch, holding my wife's hand, and feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. I'm still here, still standing, and that's victory enough. Looking back, I see now how close I came to losing everything. Not just my money or my freedom, but my sense of self. This wasn't just husband revenge against a con artist. It was a fight to reclaim my life from someone who weaponized trust and turned family drama into a calculated business. If you're watching this, and something feels off in your life, if someone's isolating you, pressuring you to sign documents, or making you question your own mind, don't be like me. Don't wait until you're wearing a surveillance device and driving a truck with cut brake lines to ask for help. Trust your instincts. Document everything. Reach out to a lawyer, the police, a friend you trust. God gave us intuition for a reason, don't ignore it. The hardest lesson I learned: family drama doesn't excuse elder abuse. Love doesn't mean surrendering your autonomy. When husband revenge becomes necessary to protect yourself from those closest to you, it's not about anger, it's about survival. And survival sometimes means protecting yourself from the people you thought would protect you. God tests us in ways we don't expect, and sometimes that test looks like betrayal from your own household. The family drama that nearly destroyed me taught me this: God also gives us the strength to stand back up when we've been knocked down. I fought back. And if you're facing something similar, whether it's husband revenge on a manipulative relative, financial exploitation, or psychological warfare disguised as concern, know this: you're not alone. You're not crazy, and you can fight back. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that might save someone you love. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear it. Thank you for staying with me until the end. A quick note: the stories on this channel contain fictionalized elements created for educational purposes. If this content isn't for you, feel free to explore other videos that better suit your preferences. I'm Spencer Brennan, and I'm still standing.